couples who are both trained in spiritual direction, and we'd like to present to you something which will hopefully be informative, but the first part will be how not to do it in terms of listening to someone in a soul friendship situation, and then hopefully the second part will be how you can do it to your best ability. Before we do that, I'd really like to know, on your seat there should be some 4 questions. If anyone would like to just say how it felt when you were in your pairs being listened to. So the first question is, how did it feel to be listened to in that way? So there was no interruption, someone was just listening. Would anyone like to say how that felt for them? To be listened to without interruption. We've had one brilliant from over here, which was good. Anyone else? Valued. Valued. Wonderful word, yes. Thank you. Yeah.
Yep, that's certainly say it again. It enabled thoughts to come to the surface that probably wouldn't have done otherwise.
How interesting. Yeah, thank you.
I appreciate the fact that I was given time, because I'm one of these people who takes me time to process things.
Yeah.
And they're awkward silences, they're not awkward. You just need that time to be able to think about things and not to be interrupted is so important.
Yes, yes. Thank you, Suzanne. Oh, lovely, thank you.
I'd like to echo that. As one who nowadays has trouble speaking and quite often has to take time to marshal thoughts, it was terrific.
Thank you. Yes, yeah, thank you. Well, the second question is, how did it feel to listen without responding? So when you were listening to the other person, how was that without responding?
Really quite difficult.
Thank you for your honesty.
Richard had his
So it felt like, to me, it felt like an act of grace to the other person.
Thank you. Yes.
It was also freeing because there was no expectation on you to offer advice or fix anything.
Yeah.
It was just you were there to listen.
Thank you, Julie.
It stopped me focusing on myself. You just focused on the other person.
Thank you. Some really helpful responses. Richard.
Slightly unnatural because you want to say oh yeah or something just because conversations ebb and flow or there's interaction. It felt slightly odd in that way, but not a problem.
Holding back.
Yeah.
Thank you for all those contributions, really helpful. And so I think this might answer the next question, which was what was the most challenging about the experience? I think what you've just said is one of the challenges, but there are others too, yeah?
talking for 10 minutes.
I hear that not everyone did. So yes, it can be challenging. Yeah. Thank you. Any other challenges? I'm sure there are many, but that's fine. Oh, we have one here from yes.
Not talking when you wanted to make a response to something that they'd said.
Yes, thank you. I think Mark has one.
Yeah, I mean, the big temptation is to start immediately talking about yourself. You know, if someone says, "Oh, such and such a thing happened to me," and then you immediately come in and say, "Oh, this all immediately recounting a long story all about yourself.
Yeah. Very honest and true of many conversations with people. Yes, thank you. Thank you.
Mea culpa.
Sorry?
Mea culpa.
And the last question, what might you take from it into your everyday listening? You might need to think about that for a little while, but and after these 2 role plays, there might be further things that you think, I definitely won't do that. But others, yes, I'd like to take that into my everyday listening.
I would say that I prefer kind of active listening, so that
Yeah.
you're not completely silent.
Yeah.
So you say or yes, or I share that, or something like
Yeah.
that, just to reassure the other person that you are really listening and not just doing.
That's right, not falling asleep. Not acknowledging, aren't you? Yes, thank you, Lars.
I would say it's also very freeing
Yeah.
to take into everyday listening. You don't have to fix it. The point is there that you're listening.
Yeah.
That's all you've got to do.
Yes, thank you.
We found it so helpful, both Nigel and I did, that we've decided to be intentional about this practice
Yeah.
to listen for 10 minutes once a week to one another.
Wonderful.
So maybe that's something.
We got each other.
Yeah.
On the mic, we got each other.
So maybe that's something that we can do when we meet a friend for coffee. So today, how about if we do this and see what happens? Intentionality.
It is. And Liz said she prayed before pairing people. And how interesting that you had each other.
Obviously need to
And look at the fruit of what's coming out of it. That's really very special. Yeah.
And
Thank you.
if the word hasn't been said, it is such a gift to listen and to be a recipient of that.
It is indeed. Thank you, Angela. Yeah. Thank you very much for your responses to that. Very valid, very valuable to us all.
Bring up the first slide.
Yes.
You got the clicker.
I have the clicker.
So we're going to go into these little role play situations now. But just a reminder really, I think these were explained in the notes that Liz had put with the programme, which was handed out. But just what we're obviously going to be trying to model here is how to sort of use our whole selves to listen well. So using our ears to actually hear what's being said, but our eyes as well to really look at the person, see what their body language and everything's like. Using our minds to sort of think, well, you know, what's really going on here beyond what's being said. And then our heart to listen to the Holy Spirit at the same time. I always find that a bit tricky, trying to listen to the person, listen to the Holy Spirit. But I think for me, one of the most important things is undivided attention. So trying to get rid of all those distractions that can sort of get in the way. And sometimes that goes better than others because we're not perfect, are we, Liz? So we'll go into the first one and then we'll do a little bit of feedback after that. So when we go to the first one, you've got to listen or watch out, listen out for all the things that you think were not very good, and then we'll put those up on the flip chart.
Feel free to note them down if you'd like to, but you don't need to. I'd just like to say that, sorry, I forgot to say, I am not Liz in this, I'm Jessica, and Jackie is not Jackie in this, she's Sophie. Okay, it's role play.
Yeah, and these are situations I think that were real for us in the past, but we've kind of dealt with the baggage, so we can do it without being emotionally attached.
Indeed. Oh, hello.
Hi, hello. You?
Yeah, all right. Yeah, or do you want to sit down?
Thank you.
You all right then?
Yeah, not too bad.
Right.
Yeah. Mm.
Do you want to talk about it?
Yes, I do. I think what I want to talk about is just how out of balance my life feels.
Yeah.
But I feel a bit fragile about talking to it really, because I sort of feel like I'll be opening a can of worms that I won't then be able to get the worms back in the can.
Oh, yeah, I know that feeling. Oh, crumbs. Once you've opened the can, it all comes spilling out, and you don't know when to stop. And it's terrible.
It's really sort of about work, I guess. That, work. I just feel work completely dominates my life, and there's so many obstacles every day to get through, and I'm just so tired at the end of the day.
Oh, you know that lady that you passed on the path coming in? Oh, she's exactly the same. Yeah, Claire Brown. She's having exactly the same problems with her work. Yeah, terrible family situation.
Yeah, I saw her. She looked really upset.
Oh yeah, she was crying. Oh dear, I couldn't get rid of her.
Anyway, it's just, this sort of work thing. I come home at the end of the day and I sort of I get home at the end of the day and
Yeah.
I really sort of feel I should at least be making myself something healthy to eat, or doing some exercise, or even praying. But all I do is I get home from work and I pour myself a glass of wine and I collapse on the sofa, and that's it really.
You're a teacher, aren't you?
No, I'm a manager of a healthcare centre. Yeah. And just every day it's just a whole list of obstacles to be overcome. Patients complaining, staff moaning, doctors arguing. I've just had enough. I've just had enough. I'm burnt out really.
Oh, you just want to go down the pub.
Well,
I think you can meet your friends down there. Just go to the pub, you can meet your friends, have a good chat, drink.
Yeah, I just don't know. I just sort of feel I've become so sort of like in on myself that I don't want to go out, because I sort of feel guilty about being a bit of a killjoy if I go and meet my friends. So I just sort of think I'd rather not really. I really, I keep thinking I'd quite like to maybe get another job, and I've got a mortgage to pay, and I think I'm a bit old for looking for a new job, and I just absolutely.
Oh, don't cry. Oh, please don't cry. I can't stand it when people cry. Had that with the last lady. Oh, don't cry. Just, pull yourself together.
few weeks ago I went on a sort of what was called a scrap weaving retreat up on Holy Island, and it was lovely. Someone taught us how to do these things, and we could collect all these bits of stuff off the beach and then weave them into little things. And I brought one with me actually to show you. This was my favourite one, and I thought there was, sometimes you can't really get in touch with how you feel, and I thought this sort of says it quite well, really. A dead twig, and then a little shell with a hole in it, and I thought, well, that describes me quite well at the moment. So that was it, and that was my favourite one that I made.
It's a bit weird. Oh, I don't like that. No. Okay, well, if it makes you happy.
Well, I don't know where I go from here, really. I just kind of, I just don't know what to do next. Life just, it has no attraction for me. Just this day after day, drudgery.
Sorry, I need to take this call, sorry. I'll see you next week, all right? Same time, same place. Hello. Oh, it's nice to hear you. Thanks for ringing. Sorry about that.
You won't get an Oscar, but you might get a Razzie.
Don't give up the day job.
So, anybody like to start calling out? Not good.
The level of the seats.
Sorry.
The level of the
Yeah.
seats.
What was wrong with those?
Find a pen.
Oh, some stainless.
No eye contact.
Just before that, the very offhand greeting at the door.
What?
Not you.
Disinterest.
Loudly blowing nose.
Just for your information, you have to know your roles, please.
Yawning.
Fidgeting.
Inappropriate sharing of other people's
Scratching. Looking at
Position of chairs. Too confrontational.
Yeah, the eye contact to begin with was quite intense.
Total lack of obvious interest in the client.
No empathy.
Yeah.
Pull yourself together.
Don't cry.
Yeah.
No preparation. She was on the phone at the start, didn't prepare herself for the encounter.
Talking about previous clients.
Yeah.
Fidgeting.
Yeah.
Facial expressions.
Very dismissive of the client's attempts to help themselves.
Fits of the giggles.
Sorry, that wasn't intentional, was it?
Right. Give him what? Yeah, give advice.
Body language, as in.
Not liking the thing, the made object, whatever it was. I
Yeah.
don't like that.
Yeah.
Not valuing that.
I'll call that no affirmation or.
No empathy.
Well,
Not listening to bits that sounded like desperation.
what shall I call that now? Just
Not knowing what the client did for a job.
There's no duty of care because you're meant to make sure your client is all right going home and not going to self-harm.
yeah.
Devaluing the little the things you've made.
Yeah.
No proper ending. No ending.
No, yeah.
Telling her not to cry.
That devaluing thing that that's actually happened to me, actually, and it scarred me, actually, for really quite a long time.
It just affirmed what you probably already thought about yourself.
Have your phone on.
Simon said, are you going to show us how not to do it now?
This is really beautiful, and I love Jackie dearly. And I do listen. Just like to disclaim anything to do with Jessica. It's really, really, if you didn't see it, it's absolutely beautiful.
So when we were trying to prep this, we had a lot of fun. We just couldn't stop laughing when we were trying to practice it. But anyway, now, so I mean that there was I think you did really well. So now I've got the difficult task of trying to model a slightly better way of doing it. And I suppose just to get, we haven't got that long really, so I think probably I just want to say that what I'm going to try and do in 10 minutes would probably in other circumstances take at least 45 to an hour. So if you could just bear that in mind and be a bit gracious. Just need to get myself into my other persona for a moment. Hello, Jessica.
Hello,
Hi.
Sophie.
Come on in. Yeah. Been really looking forward to seeing you.
Oh, I've been looking forward to coming actually. Yeah. I do benefit tremendously from these sessions. Thank you.
Yeah, no, I've been anxious to hear how you've been getting on.
Yes, well, I've actually been feeling quite overwhelmed. There seems to be a lot of people who I'm looking out for, trying to take care of in my life, and it doesn't really reflect very well on the simple lifestyle, simple living within my way of life, really, because I think I'm overdoing it. So looking out for lots of people who need my support, doing less shopping, and I'm just going here, there, and everywhere, backwards and forwards, seeing different people, and just feels, quite a lot of pressure, really.
The way you describe it sounds quite overwhelming.
Yes, I'm aware that it's giving me a sense of purpose, and I think we all need that, but maybe I'm overdoing that, really. Yeah. Some people might need practical help, others emotional support, and I'm just aware that it's draining me. Oh. So this is an example. Hello? yes, if you make a list for me, then I'll pop round and sort that out for you. All right. Okay. Bye bye. So that's one example, really. You know, this chap he's very elderly, can't get out, needs shopping. Otherwise, no one else can get it for him. So that's just one of many examples. Yeah.
How would it have been if you hadn't answered that phone call?
Well, the trouble is I worry about people like him. You know, I sort of feel that he needs that support, and if I feel concerned, I then don't sleep because I'm worried and I feel guilty. I feel very guilty if I don't help out. So it feels that there is an imbalance in my life because I'm doing a huge amount for these people here, and then I'm not doing anything for myself. So there's a definite disparity there, an imbalance. Yeah.
Yeah, and you're almost using your hands to sort of demonstrate how distracted you are and pulled in all directions.
Yeah, I hadn't thought of that. Yes, I suppose I am. Yeah. Yeah.
Can you tell me about maybe some of the friendships you've got where you're not needed by your friends?
Yes. Yeah, interestingly, I've had an experience recently where I was doing a course in spiritual direction, and I met a lot of people on that course who became my peers. They weren't people in need. They weren't friends that expected anything from me. They were just peers doing the same thing. And it was delightful to be in that position, to be meeting with people who had similar experiences of life and where I could just enjoy their company.
And as you were saying that, you've got a completely different feel about you. Your sort of face brightened, you sort of could almost feel that sense of joy.
Yes, well that's true. It does feel joyful being in their company and sharing part of life's journey with them. Yeah.
So on the one hand, you've got these really life-giving friendships where you're there for each other, but you don't actually need each other.
Yes.
As opposed to these other, we'll call them friendships, but they're ones that put quite a heavy burden on you and are a little bit draining.
That's right. Yes. I suppose I feel that my purpose is attached and associated with those needs. And my sense of purpose in life is associated with them.
Yeah. So you need to be needed.
Yes, that's right.
So what would life be like for you if you felt no one needed you?
Oh, I don't think I'd know who I am then. I don't really know who I am without that need. Or what my purpose would be.
I also was wondering about, you seem to be saying that you have a real sense of guilt if you don't respond to these people almost like straight away.
Yes, I do. Yes, I feel quite concerned about them if I don't respond. I feel it's my responsibility to do that.
How do you think Jesus sees you?
Well, that's a very interesting question. I think Jesus sees me as my identity being in him and not in what I do. And that's easy to say and difficult to put into practice. Mm.
What kind of inspiration do you think you might draw from the life of Jesus, who, like you, had many, many demands on him?
He did, and so he took himself away to a quiet place to be with the Father and to pray. And I think that's the perfect example of what we can do as well in our lives. It's putting it into practice. It isn't always very easy, but I think laying down before the Lord these people and their needs, and then spending time in prayer alone, seeking out a quiet place would be a good way forward. Yes. And I think that would bring a new sense of freedom, that the guilt would be, I'd be released from that guilt, and as a result have a sense of freedom from the feeling of responsibility.
Yeah, and I mean that's a lovely word, freedom, isn't it?
It is, yes. And I sometimes feel a bit selfish if I want my own space and time, but I sort of feel liberated, and if I can give myself that and actually put it into my diary and not just leave the space and then it ends up being filled.
So giving yourself permission to value yourself as much as you value your friends and people who do need you in their life.
Indeed.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. I think that would enable me to reflect a more simple lifestyle, because I would be reducing the amount I give. I'd be having the time to receive and then have a better understanding of how much to be giving and how much not to be responding to some of these needs.
And I guess to try and find your comfort zone within it, one question you could ask yourself is, if you say no or not now, what might those people do instead?
Well, my prayer would be that they would seek out someone else and entrust them into the Lord's hands, knowing that someone else will step in. And it doesn't have to be me every time.
You look completely different now from you did when you came in earlier on.
Good, thank you. Well, it's been really helpful.
Yeah, you came in sort of, quite a heavy kind of sense about you, but you seem brighter and a sort of greater sense of hope about you.
Oh, there's a sense of hope and resolution to this.
Yeah.
It's not something that can't be addressed, resolved, prayed about. Thank you very much. It's been very, very, very helpful.
How would you like to end today? What would be helpful?
I think if we're just quiet for a moment, and then if you could pray, that would be really helpful. Thank you very much.
Let's do that. So Lord, we thank you that you know each of us by name. And we pray that we would each be the person you created us to be. You are here with us now. And you are the guide of our hearts and minds. So help us to rest in your loving gaze. Amen.
Amen.
I look forward to seeing you again.
Should we get our diaries out and make a new date?
Yes, definitely. things that were better than the first one.
Everything.
Warm welcome.
Chairs.
Genuine interest.
You're listening and reading your body language. Allowing silence and space.
Reflecting back.
All the obvious self-preparation in the first place.
My handwriting is getting worse and worse.
Still legible.
You were not distracted.
Sorry?
You were not distracted.
You were taking cues from Jessica.
Prompting questions as needed.
Pronouns changed. Lots more used and a lot less I's.
Very skilled questions. Very skilled.
Validating.
Calm.
I don't know if it's been covered, but commenting on her body language. Reading body language, yeah.
Not jumping in with advice.
Commenting on relationship with Jesus.
Talking of hope.
I don't know how to put it into one word, as maybe it's a skill questions, but basically helping Jessica or whoever you were in that role play find the answer was within herself anyway.
Not learned.
Yeah.
It's
But helping her to navigate her way to it.
You asked her how she wanted to end the session,
Yeah.
which I found really helpful.
Actually showed that you, by offering, saying, right, when's the next appointment? When do you, that sort of feeling that, oh, I'm not as bad, or, she must like me because she wants to have another appointment with me. Sort of thing.
Prayer. She prayed at the end. Personal.
Warm. I loved it that your prayer at the end was you were on a level with her. You used us, and I love that.
Can't be the person to imagine stuff, sort of like they were working out. It's a safe, non-judgmental space.
You helped her consider what would happen to the people she was caring for if she stopped.
I'll put looking at the results of,
It was a positive outcome. She went away feeling better, not worse.
I think you've got the message. So
More observant than you think we are.
So to sort of like make that not too spiritual direction-y, but more sort of like demonstrating things that, you know, would be useful and helpful just in soul friendship. So just moving on down the PowerPoints a bit. Yeah, so I managed to come up with a little cross stick. So just based on the word listen down the side. So as you've all pointed out, the things you notice, you know, letting go of the distractions, the phone and any other things that are going on, really being interested in the person and in what's happening. Just on that next point, showing empathy and imagining self in their shoes. Is Becky here? Is she? Yeah, Becky and I had an interesting time in our listening thing this morning when I certainly realised that you know, it's not actually about imagining ourselves in their situation, because it's very unlikely to be the same, but we can, the emotions that might come out of a situation, it might be the emotions that we can empathise with. So we can show empathy even if we don't actually understand their situation at all. But if we can recognise the emotion, then that will be most helpful for them. Yeah, tuning in, non-verbal clues, listening, focus. One of you mentioned in the feedback, making sure you don't, even if you have some judgment, you don't let it show in any way. And the never interrupting, I think I probably ought to clarify that a little bit, because in most cases you just wouldn't interrupt. You know, you'd wait for the pause. But occasionally you get someone who just does not stop and can talk, you know, literally for an hour with hardly taking a breath. And I think in that situation, I would interrupt actually, just to try and shall we just take stock of what you said so far. And then finally, the last slide. Just all things that are useful for to being aware of. We said using our having an open heart, trying to seek the wisdom of the Spirit as we listen. Using open questions most of the time. It doesn't matter if we're not completely consistent with it, but trying to use open questions that that Jessica couldn't have just said yes or no to. You know, for some people, silence is quite a threatening, or can be quite a threatening thing, and they feel quite uncomfortable with it. But so that's a judgment to be made, really, as to how long you have a silence for. I once had somebody in an hour session spent the first 25 minutes literally in silence. I was really pleased with myself afterwards for having stuck with it, and then what happened afterwards was kind of like really fruitful. Yeah, using our shared experience sensitively, because we may have something that could be really helpful to the person, but picking and choosing carefully where we might do that. And you know, particularly in relation to what we're talking about in soul friendship, it's trying to relate it to aspects of their way of life, and always bringing prayer into it in some way. You don't, lots of people, you don't have to pray at the end, but that is the preference of the person that you're talking to, really, to give them that choice. So I hope that was helpful, as well as amusing. Probably shocking. Okay, I think that's it. We're done.
This is actually more of a comment. I've been trained as a Stephen minister, which is sort of a ministry of encouragement and being alongside people in trouble. And yeah, so the empathy part, it's about you really see where they are, and then you repeat it to them, so that they understand that you know the situation they're in, or you come as close as you can to knowing the situation they're in. But empathy is a difficult thing to show sometimes.
you said about listening to the spirit, you know, we're thinking, oh my goodness, how do you listen to both? Very often I find it's the question that arises in me. You know, you ask a question, and often I'll be thinking, well, this is a really stupid question. And the person will say, oh, oh. And what I love about it is just so simple. You know, I'm not going to get amazing, profound, holy words that I'm going to pronounce over them. This is what the Lord is saying to you. It's more likely a stupid question. And it's actually really comforting. You know, listening to the Spirit doesn't actually have to be that tricky.
Thank you. I think both those points are really helpful because reflecting something back to someone, as Lars was saying, can be quite a surprise to them sometimes, and they don't realise it's what they've just said. It's quite interesting. And then those sort of unusual questions can open up something new and different for the person too. And I've had experience of that with someone who was a priest, who was my practice person for my spiritual direction course, and I was a bit nervous about this. I was sort of thinking, well, they know it all. How am I going to be helpful to them? And experiencing this person grow over a period of 6 weeks, but not only that, but skip out of my house. This is someone in her 80s. Skip out of my house, excited about the new opportunities in her life. And I thought, well, that wasn't me. That was the Spirit enabling her to see her life differently by us meeting together. It was very thrilling. So we don't always know what reflecting back on those questions that we think, ooh, don't always know what the outcome is going to be. And it's trusting, isn't it? Trusting that that's the Spirit leading us.
Mine's just a comment as well, but I just wanted to say thank you so much, and that was really beautifully done. It's been so helpful for me, this session this evening. I think I've been coming for about 5 years, and this is one of the most helpful sessions I've had, so thank you so much.
Thank you. I think it's putting the theory into practice that sometimes helps to see, doesn't it? Definitely not how not to do it.
It's also useful to know if you're new to having soul friendship, you know, what to expect. You know, because I'm have people, well, I don't know what you're going to do, or, you know, etc. It could be helpful to sort of give them pointers that they can understand to how to use the sessions.
Yes.
Because, you know, if they're brand new and never had counselling or anything else, then they're sort of flailing around metaphorically. Just, well, what can I get out of this?
And I think you're right, that was mentioned previously, wasn't it, about sometimes people do need help and guidance into how to get the most out of the time.
I mean, now I can say that after 20 years and all, I wouldn't be, you know, I can't imagine not having a soul friend. In fact, I found myself in a period where I do need another soul friend because the last one has had to stop. But I've valued having a soul friend all these years. And it feels very strange to not have one at the moment.
Yeah, it's such a privilege, isn't it?
So when Jessica was the character's name, when, you know, it takes a lot of courage and vulnerability to share a piece of art. That is.
So that was me, Sophie.
Oh, Sophie, sorry. But you know what? To share that has come out of your heart and that is, you know, really meant something to you. We have both learned really through painful experiences to be careful when you put your own, you know, there's a time to, like iron sharpens iron to improve each other's art, but it's not when it's first presented. And I'm ever so glad in certain times of my life. I'll give you one example when, and this relates to friendship, because out of some sort of really valuable soul friendships we had with a retired music teacher, she presented an idea for a musical, and to be honest, I thought it was terrible. I thought it was really awful. And why am I here? This is rubbish. And I felt really convicted, but I'm so glad I didn't rubbish it, because actually the Lord had spoken to her that she was to bring this to us and we were to collaborate. And out of the collaboration, we were eventually able to input some ideas that would make it better. And I think what it's we found, that we both create things and put our heart into them, and it can be really painful for it to feel like that's just been rubbish. So I don't know if that's helpful for creative people, because maybe it is rubbish, but it's you need to lay that.
It's far from rubbish. It's a blessing to all of us, and I think it's just wonderful that you're in the community, because we're all benefiting from your wonderful music, and I think it seems to ooze out of you, and your creativity shows in terms of the number of different tunes and things that you set to music. It's just a remarkable gift that you're sharing, and we're all blessed by it. Thank you.
And I think what came out of that vulnerability of sharing something is the recognition of it's kind of irrelevant what the item is like. The point is that it's precious because it's out of someone's heart.
That's right.
And it's out of their vulnerability, and the kind of recognition that each other are way more precious and valuable than we can ever imagine. You know, our society rubbishes people, tears people down, discredits people at a drop of a hat. But God knows the hairs of our heads, and if only we can begin to have the eyes. Patrick would pray, will you give me your eyes, God? And maybe, we've said ears and eyes. Maybe our prayer is, can you help me see how precious people are in God's sight, and may we take that on in ourselves, so we never distracted or write people off or write what's come out of their heart off, because it's irrelevant how skilled it is.
Absolutely.
It's the last thing on God's list. So, yeah.
Thank you, Julie.
It's almost a spiritual gift, having the gift of encouragement.
It is, yes. Did you hear that, everyone? Yeah. The gift of encouragement is a spiritual gift.
I just wanted to ask some advice, really, and you did it to us this morning. The feelings on, like, when I was doing it, I was drinking a cup of coffee. Some people find it much more comfortable if you're doing a piece of needlework or something like that. How do you stand on that? I am looking into becoming a soul friend, and I know from my personal experience, I'm more likely to be more open if I'm doing something. And I wanted your thought, and like even this morning, you said about you take your coffee, you worked out between the pair of you. So we actually had our coffee, we're drinking our coffee. So I just wanted to ask your thoughts on that.
I think that's a really good conversation to have at the very beginning, before you start soul-friending someone or whatever the context is, because if that's important to you, that's something to bring up, isn't it? And I wouldn't think that anyone here would disagree. That's a good thing, because if it's helpful to you, then it's in your best interest and ours too, because whoever the soul friend is, because you're going to be able to be more open if you're occupied in that way. And if it isn't a distraction from what you want to say, it might do the reverse. It might be more helpful in terms of enabling you to say more because of what you're doing. One thing that is a practice, I think it's called small play, where you can use little things to tell your story. So they're not children's toys, but small things to act out a story. And I did it as a practice run once. And I found it incredibly helpful and very moving. And I was saying things I wouldn't have said if I hadn't been using those individual items. So it's not dissimilar to that.
Small world.
Small world,
Yeah.
that's the one. Small world. I didn't think it was right.
Yeah.
Yes, indeed. Yes. Pictures, things, small world. Thank you.
I've seen it done with sand and seashells.
Oh, lovely.
When you're in a tray,
Yes.
and
Yes.
moving the sand around and placing the shells to depict maybe where you fit in the family's life.
That's right. Yes.
So,
Yes. Yes. I've seen a similar thing with pebbles. Yeah. And associating a particular pebble with a person.
but it all depends
Yeah.
on our learning
It
capability.
does. It does.
Whether you're a visual person or listening or experiential.
That's right. Yes. We all learn differently, and we all express differently.
And every soul-friend relationship will be individual.
Yeah. Absolutely.
It is designed, I've observed during today, so Scott spoke earlier about moving between sort of parent, professional, peer. And I noted that in the chat earlier, how 1 minute you were sort of using coaching skills, looking at it from a sort of objective viewpoint, and then you were getting alongside, walking on the journey. So I think part of the skill is the soul friend is just moving, weaving between, putting different hats on, and praying at the end. But it's really interesting just watching how well you did it, weaving through different perspectives, asking questions, a bit challenging perhaps, but not too challenging, and then getting alongside them. So yeah, that's just coming across to me, how we need to weave in and out of different perspectives.
Thank you, Paul. Anyone else?
Can I ask a question?
Yes,
Because I've got the mic. You guys did a really lovely job on it, and my question is really to you, but also to the rest of the people in the room is, do we feel that that's something that we could actually do, that, you know, because you guys are obviously professionals and did it really, really well, do we feel that we can do that? I don't know how people feel that.
The role play or the actual act of soul friendship?
Soul friendship, I think.
Soul friendship, yeah.
Because the professionals do role play as well.
Yeah, like me, I found today so fantastic, and I've already spoken to Scott about what Paul's just said about weaving, because even with my conversation, 1 minute I was the parent, then I was the peer. I would love to do it, but I do know now that I need training, I need guidance, and I need someone to walk alongside me. I am so interested, and I know I'm probably ready for it, but I do need mentoring on it.
That's very honest and helpful to be known, because I'm sure there are others who feel the same. And I think that's something that's in the planning, some form of training for people. Yes. Oh, yeah.
Do we need a microphone?
Just coming.
Thank you. Yeah, in response to your question, from where I'm sitting, I know a number of us in the room are trained spiritual directors as well, and trained in other things, listening skills, pastoral supervision, etc. So I'm wondering if the question to us as a community is how can we harness those gifts and experience, and how can those of us with the capacity be encouraged to share what we've got in other ways?
Yes.
Yeah, I think that's how I would put it.
Yes, thank you. Thank you.
In a sense, to echo what Carol's just said, it seems to me that what we've done this evening is something there for us all. All of us can be peers.
Yes.
All of us can listen. And probably all of us need to learn to listen better. And actually it doesn't stop at soul friendship, does it? So to somebody earlier today, we do this within our marriage preparation. We do a listening exercise. And goodness, wouldn't it be great if listening skills were more evident in marriages as well, and all other relationships.
Thank you. Yeah.
And I think we all have to begin somewhere. You know, we can't go from 0 to 10 straight away. We have to start and grow into it.
Just to go back to what Suzanne said earlier as well about bringing something along, it may be that you feel more comfortable walking with someone as well, rather than sitting, because it can feel a little bit clinical. But literally walking with them, alongside them and talking can be easier for some.
Going on from that, of course, it's always a lot easier when you're driving with somebody. And you're actually not making eye contact, but you are talking to each other.
Best not to make eye contact.
One thing we haven't touched on is that many of us are having to do our soul friendship either on the phone or on WhatsApp.
Yes. Yes, thank you. Yes, you don't often see the whole body then, and quite a lot of information is given through body language, isn't it? And you don't always see all of that.
What I would say is, before anybody got into being a soul friend, would be to face up to your own issues and have the experience of being the person who goes to a soul friend and to deal with any issues that might come up.
Yes.
Because sometimes you're the person can bring up issues unwittingly that taps into your own history.
That's right, it can be triggering, can't it?
And so you need to be aware of what your issues are, so you can protect yourself as well as the person you're listening to.
Yes, thank you. Very good point.
I was very struck with what Scott was saying this morning, and differentiating different types of soul friend, really. So it's not nearly so scary, at least to me, to think in terms of the peer soul friend. You know, you're talking with somebody that perhaps you already know, and that's a completely different picture, isn't it?
It is, yes, thank you. It's friendship.
And as I said earlier, this was 10 minutes, but normally when you meet somebody, you probably would start off by having a cup of coffee and a general chat about, you know, what's been going on before you get into anything at a slightly deeper level.
Anything else? Anyone? Thank you ever so much. Oh, yes.
I don't think you've mentioned the whole issue of supervision. I mean, that word is not very helpful, but having, if you're going to do this with somebody on a regular basis, you may need someone else, somewhere else that you can take anything that has particularly, you know, struck you or affected you, because that will happen, won't it?
Thank you, Janet. Good point.
So Ruth Stock and I actually talked about this today, and the way that I can see this working practically is that we have a modular way of training people. So we might do listening skills or expectations or boundaries. We just give people some practical skills to be a peer soul friend. But what Ruth and I were saying is that it'd be great to have a forum that met quarterly where soul friends can come and have that kind of oversight or supervision or feedback, a space where you can share. What word would you use, Ruth?
I think we need to call it support.
Support, yeah. So these are all things that we are aware of and
Yes, that's
working
really
on.
good. Yeah.
We're moving in the right direction, yeah.
Yes, that's reassuring.
I think listening skills is probably the best place to start because it's a life skill,
Yes,
isn't it?
Yes.
And it's best done in person, really.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, we'll make it work. Because we're a dispersed community, we'll probably have to do some online stuff as well.
Of course, yeah.
In the diocese of Coventry, it's mandatory to have a supervisor and to meet every 2 or 3 months with your supervisor. It's like counselling. You're not allowed to do the listening unless you've got a supervisor.
Yeah, and that's true of spiritual direction. You can't practice without
It's
having
always safe
supervision.
practice for yourself, haven't you?
That's right. Yes. Yeah. Very important. And you learn so much through that as well. And people reflect back to you. Sometimes it's not very easy to hear what people say, but it's important that in that role you can be receptive to what people have observed of you. And we are making ourselves vulnerable in that situation. But we come back really to what James just said about being a peer soul friend. In soul friendship, it's about being a friend. And sometimes that's just sitting with a drink and chatting through how things are going with their life and their way of life. But it sounds like something developing further, so that's good. Yes, indeed. Yeah. Yes, Liz.
I was wondering what you felt was the role of prayer in this. Would you offer to pray with the person you're mentoring before you start the discussion? I realise in general spiritual direction you might not do that, or in a counselling situation, but having had different soul friends, and one who never suggested it and one who would always pray at the beginning of the session, I just wondered what other people felt about that.
Does anyone else want to say anything about that? Or I mean, I would say again, it just depends on the individual relationship. I would always want the person I'm with to know that I'm happy to pray, but I'm not going to do it if that makes them feel uncomfortable. So it's really, every relationship is a little bit different. Or whether you pray at the beginning, whether you pray at the end, lots of variations. I think probably more often I pray at the end, not always, because sometimes people don't know how to start. So that can be a good way in to pray at the beginning as well.
I think silence has a role as well.
Yes.
Some people feel comfortable starting with just a few minutes of silence. They might have rushed in to wherever you're meeting and they need a bit of time just to consider what they might say, and just to be still for a moment or two can be helpful.
I just want to say, I think the thing that I found the most helpful, which has given me the confidence to think I'm now ready, is the fact to say to people, what would you like?
Yes.
Yeah, and I think you summed up when I asked that question, when you said, how would you like me? And they might say, I'd like prayer. I think, and also the ending as well, the beginning and the ending, how would you like to start? What would you like to get out of this? And how would you like to end it? And all the bits in between, I just think will hopefully come together.
Just remembering it's for them, isn't it? And so being respectful and asking those questions at the start is important.
Get my steps in. Yeah, sorry to make another comment, but I think for me, anyway, coming into the community only in the last 2 or 3 years, the idea of being a soul friend, it felt quite slightly daunting because of the imagined formality of the role. You're very much seen as the professional type role or the parent, which of course does exist. But hearing, taking part in the exercise today, using a sort of the idea of more intentional friendship, intentionally walking alongside someone, is much, much less scary than having, you are a soul, this is a formal role that somehow feels a little bit unnatural because you may have been assigned to that person, or somehow this is some kind of formal expectation. Removing all of that and using the word intentional, peer, friend, feels much more natural and much less scary to people. Maybe that you are already operating in that way, but need a few more skills like the listening and pointers of oh, that is so helpful to do that. So that was just an observation about the formality of this soul friend role that might have been scary in the past. It's been demystified in the last 10 years.
Good. Oh. Just when you think it's all over.
One of the things that I do to encourage people to become a soul friend is, at a pure level, is I say, maybe you're a page ahead in an area, a particular area. So if you are a prayerful person, you might become a soul friend to someone who wants to pray more. Or if you study the Bible well, and you want to know the wisdom of God from Scripture, and someone might come alongside you. I think of, Boyshall and Cuthbert spent the week reading John's Gospel together as soul friends, and so I think there's just going to be practical ways that we break through this barrier that we've created around professionalism and around clericalism, and things like, well, I'm just a page ahead, I will walk with you, might be one way to do it.
Thank you.
It's perhaps a bit of a silly comment, but I think we're not perfect as soul friends, and sometimes I yawn. Sometimes
one eye.
I need to go to the toilet.
What?
Sometimes I've been hassled and not got the room ready. But I think the thing is, it's friendship.
Exactly.
And we're human. We're just as human as the person that we're with, and just as fallible.
Sorry, just to follow that up, Ruth, with a funny story. My soul friend, who's very practiced and very professional normally, started to wrap up my last session with her halfway through because she got the time wrong. She thought we'd started half an hour previously. And I thought, oh, well, maybe she's in a hurry, or maybe she thinks I've already got there for today. So that's fine. And then she said, how would you like to end? And I said, oh, prayer would be nice. And then the next time I went, she said, oh, Carol, I'm so sorry. She said, I realised I cut you off short last time. So thank you for saying that. We don't have to be perfect.
So one other thought that's just occurred to me is that, the relationship doesn't have to be forever. Sometimes people don't click and they just don't gel together, and there is an out. I'm quite often, I suppose, I don't know if you're the same, Liz, in spiritual direction more than the other. It's good practice to meet a few times and then just say, well, how's this going? Are we getting along? Are you getting what you need? And sometimes maybe it isn't right, and it's time to try somebody different.
If it feels uncomfortable to approach that, you can just have a few questions and call it a review.
Yeah.
And say, well, would you like to answer? Just take these away and think about them, and if you'd like to consider whether we continue or not. And it's not, it shouldn't be felt that it's personal in any way, because actually it is good practice. And sometimes a new person can bring new insight, well, they will bring new insight. So I think we go into it knowing that that's going to happen. That helps.
It can be an indication of growth as well.
Absolutely, it can. Yeah, if you didn't hear that, it can be an indication of growth. Well, we thought it was going to be a very brief session and you'd have extra time in your hands. But thank you so much for all your contributions, because I often say this when I've led services at church. Being here, it's not just scary, it's also a huge privilege, because we get to see all of you in your wonderful faces, and also you've contributed such a balanced viewpoint and a very valid thing. So thank you very much for all your contributions, and I think we've got a lot to work on as a community, and Scott and Ruth have that in hand, which is exciting. So thank you very much.